And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. Jacques Nienaber has made wholesale changes. Everyone, it's like Christmas has come early for a lot of people because a lot of the changes are the changes we've been wanting to see. It's a very interesting team. Is it going to do the business? We're going to have to wait and see. But this is the team that will be running out this weekend. Bang, bang, bang. And it's a very interesting, as I said, it's a very interesting team. For me, the biggest news is Kaynan Moody running out in the 14 jersey. He will get a debut this weekend. Dion Fourie, the reserve hooker. Malcolm Marx will start. And we will see Stephen Kitzel starting, for example. We've got Dwayne Fabien off the bench. We've got start for Franco Master. Willemse at 10. Billy LaRue back in the side. Yeah, there's lots to talk about here. Lots to talk about it. So yeah, before we sort of start going through the lineup and stuff like that, I want to know what you think. I'm going to start doing a poll saying, are you happy with the Springbok team? Yes or no? Now, first of all, let's go look at who's been replaced. And from what I can understand, there is an injury to the Kanya which is why he is not playing. He has not been dropped. He has a niggle. So he's unavailable for this weekend. And there's also apparently, I think, a niggle to Andre Pollard, from what I also understand. So that's why he's not playing. But apart from that, I think Joseph Drever has been dropped. I think PSJ Toy has been dropped. I think that who else has dropped out of the 23? I think Vincent Cock has been dropped, and I think that's pretty much it, isn't it? Oh, in fact, Clerk's been dropped. Obviously, that's also quite a big one. So let's sort of go through it, shall we? And decide where we like the changes, where we don't like the changes. Look, the biggest thing is we all asked changes, didn't we? All the fans asked for changes. We all asked, and we demanded changes to a certain degree. We sat there saying we have to make changes. No, we have to change things. We have to start backing other players. And they have made changes. You can't say they haven't. But let's go through them and decide whether we like the changes or not. So if you're starting through the front row, we've got Stephen Kitzel and Malcolm Marx into the front row, and I think that's probably a good decision. I think that on the back of the two pretty poor performances from Joseph Drever, Malcolm Marx had to start, especially on the fact that he had a man of the match performance when he did start against New Zealand. And with that has come Stephen Kitzel starting with him, and I quite like that, actually. I think that Oxen Chair played very well last week. I don't think I've got no issue with him. But I think he's got the capacity to be pretty good off the bench. So you're not losing too much by swapping them out. And I think Stephen Kitzel and Malcolm Marx obviously scrum quite well together because they're often used as a combination. And then you've got, even it's a bit Yaga that hasn't changed, but a very new look loose trio. Sia Khaleesi, Franco Master, Jasper Wiese. Now, PSJ the Toy last weekend was not very good, if we're being brutally honest. And so I quite like the fact that he's been replaced. And, I would have probably liked to have seen Albert Lowe in the 23, whether he was going to start or not. I don't know. But I think Franco Master's been getting better and better every single time he's come off the bench. So I think that he's been due a start. Mind him starting at 7, actually. I think we forget. He had a couple of lukewarm performances at 7, but I think we forget how good he was against. I think that's a bad selection at all. And I think Jasper Wiese is a very good selection at 8. I think we've missed somebody who's going to get us over the ball line or the advantage line often throughout the match. So, and that's what Jasper Wiese brings. Jasper Wiese brings a very good ball carrying ability. So hopefully that, I think it's a pretty well balanced loose trio. And obviously your number 7 has to be a line option. Franco Moss is a very good line option. The halfback combination, Jane Henderson I think is a good move. I think that he has been playing better than Faf de Klerk this year. So quite happy for him to get an opportunity to have a go. But I think that a Dave Williams at 10 is a very big call, and I'm not sure it's the right call. I think he has sometimes even haunted Damian Williams. He's sometimes really struggled in that 10 jersey. And a year ago, when he was, he's been back to 10 for Stormers, and I don't think he was playing his best rugby, and I don't think that it was playing to his skill set. And when we did see that move to 12 and 15 for Stormers, we started seeing a much different and a much better Damian Willemse. And the hope is that given the fact he's playing with so much confidence at the moment, which he is, means that hopefully he can get the job done. But I think my worry comes the fact that he's going to be the place kicker, which is added pressure onto him. And I don't think his place kicking is particularly reliable. Look, he might have worked on it for months and months and months, and now they decide he's ready. But I just think that he's been playing so well at full back and at centre. Give him a go there. And I think what's frustrating is I think the fact that Lekanya is injured is why Damian de Allende starts. I don't think we're going to go and change both our centres. So if Lekanya was fit, I'd be surprised. I would have been interested to see if Damian de Allende would have kept his place, or whether they would have gone with a Willemse at 12 or an Esterhuizen at 12, either or. In terms of the place kicking, we saw Jaden Hendricks slot a drop goal, but he does place kick. I have seen him place kick before, so interesting to see if maybe he does take on those duties. So that could be an option, for example. But David Dillon to Jesse Creel, I mean, it has to be Jesse Creel. I mean, people can freak out, but who else is going to play outside centre? We didn't like Damien Delende outside centre when we saw the rejigged backline after the injury to Jesse Creel in that game against New Zealand. He is also a choice outside centre, so he does come in, and so he should. And I think that he's got a lot to prove this weekend. So big pressure on him. Kane Moody in the 14 jersey. That's a big talking point. He will get his debut. And I'm excited. I'm very, very excited to see what he can do, because he has looked very comfortable at every level he's played with. He's stepped up continuously again and again. And I think that I'm hoping that this will just be the next step up for him, because if he could be somebody that could play 100 tests for the Boks with the way he's come through. But I think it also shows that we've got a big problem at 14, because we've had Cheslin Colby, Kirkley Orense, Jesse Creel, Warwick Gelant, and now Kane Moody. He's a fifth different player in what will be 7 matches to play in that 14 jersey. Which shows you how we have been battered with injuries in that particular position. And then Valilu at fullback, I think, is the right call. I think it is the right decision. We really did miss Valilu last weekend. I think we missed somebody who can help get the backline going. We need some more playmakers in that backline. We've lost Lekanya, who is a playmaker, so that's going to be a massive loss for us. So hopefully that between David Willemse and Valilu, they can try and galvanize the backline. I'm not a massive fan of this bench, I must admit. Look, I think Deon Fourie, it was about right. I think Joseph Drew's really struggled. But, again, we're now playing a flank who used to play hooker and hasn't played hooker in quite a while. And that's always going to be a gamble, isn't it? But I think where the selection becomes interesting is if it comes off, if Deon Fourie is playing well at hooker and he's throwing into the line out well, for example, you suddenly don't have to take a third hooker to the World Cup. You could take 2 hookers and Deon Fourie. So you could take Bongi Benambi, you could take Balkavox and Deon Fourie, and you could have a utility player who can cover flank and hooker. So that's quite an interesting prospect for sort of squad perspective. But he'll be under a lot of pressure. Hopefully, as I said, whenever I've been at the training, he has been practicing his throw, so hopefully he'll be fine from the line out. But you do there is a bit of a question mark whether he will be able to how he'll be able to cope. And then Oxenchair, Trevor Nyakane, no issues there. I think that Trevor has been in very good form for the Boks, and we've actually missed him. I felt in the last couple of games, so happy to see him back. At tight end as well, he can do it on both sides. Kwagga Smith has to keep his spot, but I'm not entirely sure what Dwayne Fernand off the bench, to be honest. I would have liked to have seen Ulrich Lowe. There were rumors that Ulrich Lowe was going to start and Frank Moss was going to come off the bench. But I would have liked to have seen Ulrich Lowe and Kwagga Smith as the 2 replacements. Because Frank Moss gives you the versatility. He can go into the locks, he can play at 7. Kwagga Smith can play around the back 3. Ulrich Lowe can also play around the back 3. So I would have liked to have seen Ulrich Lowe involved in the 23, because I think that we need, if you're looking at sort of a bomb squad vibes in terms of a big impact, I think Ulrich Lowe brings a bigger impact off the bench than Dwayne Fernand probably does at the moment. There's no doubt that Dwayne Fernand has been progressing, though. He played a lot better last week than he did the week before, so hopefully we'll see another step up from him. But I do worry. Good to see Kirill Shranov back. Hopefully he is fit, and I think him coming off the bench after a lot of injury issues and stuff like that is the right decision. So hopefully he will be able to sort of hit the ground running. And they haven't decided to throw him into defense and start him. He very rarely comes with the bench, actually. He often starts when he does play. And then you got France there at 22. Again, I don't really like that selection. I worry about France, I must admit. And if he was going to be selected, I would have liked to have seen him at 23, covering the center and full back. The fact that he's there in theory, potentially covering flower half, worries me a little bit. And I must admit, not being particularly impressed with what I saw from France Day last weekend. He looked very sloppy. He looked very he looked like a player who hadn't played a lot of rugby, and he hasn't played a lot of rugby. But the issue comes when you play like that at his age. It starts coming into is it a form thing or is it an age thing? Is he too old? Is he past it? Or is he just needs a couple of games to get going? And we don't have that many games to find out, unfortunately. Warwick Kalanta 23, I've got no issue with. I think we need to see him at fullback. Didn't have his best game at 14. But I think 14's been a bit of an issue for everyone. Kurt Aronson had a very good game and he got a red card. But Jesse Creel only lasted about 9 minutes. But we've had issues at 14 the entire season. But I like to see Warwick Kalanta fullback because I think, we're talking about players who have creativity. We're talking about players who can create try-scoring opportunities and opportunities to score points. He is one of those players. So you can't. On the one, this is the funny thing about Springbok fans, some Springbok fans, is that on the one half they'll sit there saying we need to be less one-dimensional, we need to be more creative in attack, we're so boring, etc., etc. And then in the same breath, will not want to play the players that bring that sort of game. They'll say we want creativity, but we don't want Warwick Kalanta. We want creativity, but we don't want Alton Yankees. We want creativity, and these are the players that bring creativity, so everything that people ask are in certain players that people then also don't want to select. You can't select someone who's not very good at being a playmaker or being able to, or has a phenomenal distribution game, and then being angry at that we then can't do it because of that selection. So we've got to select players according to the game plan we want to play. So if you're going to pick Warwick Kalanta, hopefully it means he's going to have a bit of a license to try and open up some defenses. So I think overall, looking at this 23, before I start going to the comments and we can start talking about it, I think it's a brave 23 because they have made changes. We wanted them to make changes, and they have. So we've got what we wanted, really. But the question comes is what happens if this also doesn't work, and how many games are we willing to lose in the name of finding depth or finding out where people are and stuff like that. Look, when it comes to Argentina, for example, as I've been saying, you are going to see Evan Rose playing against Argentina. You are going to see Albert Lowe. You are going to see Andre Esterhuizen, and you are going to see players like probably Warwick Kalanta starting at fullback. Hopefully, you will see other players getting an opportunity. You probably will see Herschel Yankees. You might see Grant Williams. So, there is an opportunity for those players to play in those sort of games. But I think for example, I think the starting 15, I think is a pretty good one. The only changes I probably would have made to the starting 15 was Alton Yankees at 10, Willemse at 12, and then I would have 50-50 between Frank Marshall and Albert Lowe starting. I think those probably would have been the only change I would have made to the starting 15. Otherwise, I think it's pretty nailed on. The bench I'm a bit more apprehensive about. I think the front row is fine. I think Walker Smith's fine. I would have liked to have seen if Albert Lowe started, then you would have seen Frank Moss on the bench would have been fine. I'm happy with Kobus Radach. I would have had Pollard at 22. And then you could have had Willemse at 12, Alton at 10, Pollard coming on 22. You could either replace Willemse, you could go to fullback, or you could replace Alton, go fly half. For me, there would have been a lot of options there. But I think it's an interesting selection. So it's selection. I mean, as I said, the fact that Dave Willemse is playing at 10 means that there will be a difference. There will be a difference between him and Andre Pollard because they are very different players. That is a given. It will not be, they'll probably be about the same sort of tactics, stuff like that. But they are different types of players. Hopefully, we will start to see a better Delendi who can get up to the front foot, but he needs to play football as well. We need to see him on the front foot. So yeah, let's go through some of the comments, and I see a lot of them are popping up. A lot of people not happy. A lot of people. I mean, the poll at the moment is it's pretty 50-50, to be honest. So let me go through some of the comments and see what everybody's saying. Same game plan, kick and defend. Hopefully, we can get lucky again in the World Cup. I don't think we got lucky for the World Cup, chap. I think that's pretty poor. Also, again, it's weird for me to have watched the entire season and to say that nothing has changed from a text point of view, because things have changed. The accuracy hasn't been there, but if you go and look at every single match, things have changed from the beginning to now. And you might not like to hear it, but we have seen us going wide a couple more times in the last few games. I think the issue has almost sort of become on turnover ball. We haven't done much, and that was they're talking about on between Space to Brain and Nick Bell talking about the fact that a turnover ball we haven't really tried to counter attack. So that's been our issue. Our issue is we don't really counter attack as a team, but our attacking shape, for example, we've been getting into 22, we've been going wide, but we haven't been able to carve out genuine try scoring abilities. We haven't been able to find points. So that's where we need to sort of change things up. And as I said, we've had quite a few players who are out of form, and then they've been changed. They've been replaced. They've dropped PSTF Tatoya, former World Player of the Year, has been dropped from the 23. That's a massive selection call. Faf de Klerk has been dropped from the 23. That's a massive selection call. 3 weeks ago he was bossing it against New Zealand for 60 seconds before he then went down. So we know that Faf de Klerk's not been in a fantastic arena form, but he's still a very important player. So to drop him out of 23 is a big selection call. But let's see what we've got to say here. We say what time's kickoff on Saturday? It's 11:30. Ultimate never start against. Please don't go in that direction. Yeah, cool. We'll just keep playing out of form 100 products. That went really well on Saturday, didn't it? Vermeulen Stay need to drop for younger talent. They had their time. On the same vein of form, then you've got to also be dropping Dion Ferry. So MC says, I would like Damien to be our number one choice at 10. Yeah, I don't see it, to be honest. I really hope he has a good game. But this is what's frustrating me, is that last year we've got so much recency bias. Damien Willemse last year, people were asking why he's still in the squad. Like, literally, I can go back, I can put up live streams where people were sitting there saying, Damien Willemse has got to go. He's useless. He should never be a Bok. And he was playing at 10 for the Stormers. And he then had that game at fullback for the Boks against Argentina. We had a particularly good game. And as I said, people were calling for him to be dropped. And what happened when we went back to Stormers last season? They had bought Mani Libok. He went to inside center eventually after playing a fullback during Warwick's injury, and he made the URC Dream Team at inside center. He didn't have to play fly half at any stage of this season, and he's had his best season and is playing his best rugby. So we mustn't forget that a year ago, that's where we were. Now, hopefully, he's got playing with a lot more confidence. Hopefully, he's a whole different player. He's a bit more mature, and he can step up in the number 10 jersey, but he hasn't played particularly well. And, everyone will have an absolute meltdown with Alton Yankees. He did have his best season in the Bok jersey last year. Changed the game against New Zealand when we won. And in fact, he probably outplayed Pollard last year, to be perfectly honest, because Pollard probably had his worst season in the Springbok jersey last year. And Pollard was terrible on Saturday. He was. So if your number one flyer half is playing poorly, you got to back your second choice flyer half. People were even saying this weekend that Alton Yankees was on for 10 minutes, and already we started seeing a bit more sort of flat passes and a bit more front foot ball. They are very different players, but just a player that's never ever had the backing that Pollard has in terms of being able to have a bad game and get away with it. If you're resting why not just put Esterhuizen in as well? I don't think they're resting I think he's injured. We'll find out official confirmation at 11. Yo says, have there been many comments about Jaden Akubis about Faf? Jaden's been good, but people have been complaining about him since he started against Wales. I don't see why you wouldn't start Jaden. I mean, he's had, I think, one maybe ordinary game, wasn't particularly good off the bench this past weekend, and his kicking game wasn't really spot on in the second New Zealand game. But apart from that, I thought he played really well against Wales, and he was really good in the first test against the All Blacks. So People that don't like Jaden, I don't know. It's a weird thing. He's had more good games than he's had bad games in a Block jersey. And for Krill makes no sense in my view. Any updates on Colby injury? No, nothing. Anthony says, I will have Pollard at 22. I want to see what Williamson will bring at 10. Like it. Donovan Stain saying, I really believe in Dave Williamson. I think he gives his whole heart to every game he plays. PSF needs to be dropped 100%. Great forward pack. I think they started with Master for the line option. Ahmed says, hi Steve, do you think Connor Liebenberg deserves to play for the Springboks? I think there's a lot of people that deserve to play for the Springboks. The question is, where is there space for him? I got an email today, somebody talking about Ruan Ackerman. Again, where's the space for him? So Jay says Colby being injured gives our newer other utility backs chance. Villiers and France are there to keep structure if required. Benjamin says Toy ruled out because of an injury according to the Springboks website. Yeah, so I need to go through the team release now. Right, so 100 Pollard, Kanye and PSF Toy all ruled out with knee injuries. Whilst Austin Yankees injured his hand and will not be available for selection, which is why the ambulance has gone to fly half. So there we go. Those are the reasons, people. So yeah, it's actually a force change at 10. So I just hope that Williamson can step up. I don't think it's his position. I would prefer to see him at 12. But injuries have necessitated the changes. I don't think we're going to miss 100 Pollard and PSF Toy after the game they had on Saturday. So I think that those injuries have almost come at a good time because I think they're not playing particularly well. So maybe it's a good opportunity for them to take a bit of a rest and to recover and come back stronger. But we're gonna miss. We're really gonna miss. Chris says I worry Itzebeth is being overworked. Reckon he needs a break, possibly Lure too. Yeah, Itzebeth does probably need a break. But I don't think he'll play against Argentina. So that's an issue. Stain deserved another chance. He was excellent in the Northern Hemisphere tour last year, and all he got on Saturday was a bit of time and a terrible performing team. In the final 15 minutes, we saw the forwards coming off the bench, running better lines than what our centers were running and scoring tries. How do we expect to have a forward pack and carry the whole team? Al says, it's okay to not agree with this direction. I see you're trying hard to defend individual performance. I'm just giving you my opinion, Chief. I think William Damien will share the 10 role, take off the pressure of Damien. Leon says, happy to see Dion at hooker. Also, he's a good fetch and plays his heart every game. Are the injuries long term? Well, we'll hopefully get a bit more clarity from the press conference, which starts in 5 minutes. And is Villy the best fullback we have? Yes, he is. If Phillips doesn't do well, he can stop with Villy. Moody going against Marika. I really hope Moody doesn't write himself off in the first tackle. Pollard quickly bumped his knee in the bath. I say with his toy, but I prefer if they were dropped. Yes, so as a confirmation that Pollard and Peter Toy are all injured, as well as Alton Yankees. So those 4 are all unavailable for this weekend. But that doesn't mean that Faf Clerk, for example, has been dropped. And I mean, Caden Moody is literally probably our 6th option at 14, by the way. Fun fact, because we also been forgetting about Spoon Corsi, who's also not available. Still coming back from a very long-term injury. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one. But these players now have a golden opportunity, and I think that players who need to prove a point, or who could prove a point, is Malcolm Marx needs to get through 60, 65 minutes, because it's all very well saying starting him and playing him all the minutes. When he did start against New Zealand, he was absolutely buggered by about 45 minutes. Like, do you remember looking at it? I remember looking at him, he looked on the verge of a heart attack. So it's all very well saying, well, he should just play all the time. But the question is, can he play all the time? Because, you know, the nice thing is that when you've got that sort of that depth, when you had, for example, Bongi Manambi, is you could go and say, empty the tank. You know, sprint to every single ruck. You don't have to worry about conserving energy because you can play the full length. And the last thing you want to be doing is telling Malcolm Marx, well, you know, you need to be able to play 70 minutes. So don't go too hectically and then burn out. You know, players can burn out quickly and stuff like that. We've seen Pollard cramping up, for example. But Matthew says Delindy also needs to have a good game. He wasn't that great against both New Zealand and Oz. I agree. He needs to step up a little bit. Need to find a mongrel and go out headhunting. Corey Betty surely has a target on his head, says Davey. Albert says Pollard kicking was so bad last Saturday that anyone could take over, not 2 words. That's not a bad shout, not particularly not far from the truth. Yeah, I think David Delindy's in for a big game this weekend. I think that he's not been that very effective. Hasn't been able to get over the advantage line as much as he was during sort of the World Cup. But hopefully, I think, but again, I'd like to see him hitting the line with pace and flat ball. We stand far too deep and we play from too deep. Where by the time we get into the defenses, they're basically ahead of the game line. I want to see him running flat. I don't want to see him running hard. I want to see him running over people. That's what he can do. And also then, and when there's space on, then we can use him. We can move the ball around. To say that Daniel Lindy can't pass is short-sighted, because we did see a much better offload game from him in the last couple of years. We just haven't really seen our backline click into gear as much as we'd like to this year. Dave says, Steve, do you think Kane moves up for this? I do indeed. Why do we have 3 fullbacks? We don't. We've got a fly half fullback and a reserve fullback. I don't know if you I mean, Damien Vincent, for example, played an entire season inside center. He is listed in the squad as a utility back, not as an outside back, for example. So yeah, I think a lot of the changes that we don't like are injury enforced changes, because I think that we would have seen an Alton or a Pollard at 22 or at 10, but they're both injured. So that's why we've suddenly got Willemse at 10. And the problem with Willemse at 10, the fact he doesn't often play there, we can't really go sort of a bomb squad. I think if Alton Yankees was fit, for example, you could have started him and gone with a 6-2 split, given the fact that there are so many injuries. But we can't do that because we don't have the personnel available. Casper says we really need these experienced guys to stand up and take control. Last week we lacked any energy. Ricardo suggests Creel again. This guy doesn't deserve to be in the Springbok team. Fun fact about JC Creel: he's probably, I think he's the 3rd highest try scorer in this team right now, and has more tries than the Kanya has. I think he's got as many tries as Damon Lindy has scored a lot of tries at outside center. So let's see what he does. And again, who would you like to have at outside center? We don't. He is the reserve outside center. Obviously, Lekanya Am's fit, he plays. But Lekanya Am's injured, so therefore Jesse Creel plays. And we've only seen Jesse Creel for a Welsh game and then for 10 minutes against New Zealand. So I've got no doubt that Jesse Creel can do the job. And then we'll see. And if he doesn't do the job and he plays poorly, then you got to look at bringing somebody else in. But unfortunately, to be fair, there haven't exactly been outside centers in the URC smashing the door down. Cornel Hendricks is not an option for the Box because of the health issues. Similani was hot and cold, and I can say that as a Lions fan. I'm going to miss him. I didn't want him to go. I think he could be the next Box outside center, but he's got a lot of work to do. So Ruan now is probably the only sort of real standout, and he had a good season. I wouldn't say he was, bashing down the door. You had to select him. So we are a bit short on outside centers at the moment. Plus, I think Willemse could work at 10 in terms of the pace of the game, but we will see. Grant, in my opinion, Willemse focuses on the base and doesn't try to do too much. He could be a top fly half. He has all the skills. Willemse will move to 12, and Stan will come on at 10 with 15 to go. Basically, when Pollard is on song, he's easily one of the best number 10s in the world. Interesting fact, his first miss against Australia was his first miss since the second test against Wales. Yeah, but I think the biggest question, the point of a statement like that is there's a big if. So yes, when he's on song, he's playing well, but he wasn't on song on Saturday. So then what? Surferton could help us out. I'd like to see Jan Surferton get an opportunity back in that team. Henke van Beek, our future 13 after listen, Henke van Beek still needs a flipping full season with the Lions. The kid's still very talented, I know, but he's still very young. And Rowan Janssen van Rensburg is an inside center. But I think him and Nakanya are going to be an unbelievably good center combination. I'm actually very upset about the fact that Rowan Janssen van Rensburg is back in South Africa but not playing for But yes. So yeah, that's the team. We're gonna call up there, and we'll have the press conference up in the next hour. So yeah, go and check out and keep your head up for all the explanations about the selection stuff like that. As there are quite a few injuries for the Bok team, and some big players, but players who are out of form. So opportunities for other players. I'm very excited to see if Kane and Moody can step up. And yeah, please do smash like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you.